of enlightenment. It's they're really talking about the energy to them, how important it is.
Yeah. I turned the video on because I was going to turn it on later, but this is going on, so I thought I might as well just go ahead and turn it on.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So, yes, to sum this stuff up, there's no reason to make rules. That what we need to do is always plan on investigating. So don't make the cell phone a rule. Instead, be careful about what you're watching. Don't worry about what's on the cell phone. Be happy. And when you see something on the cell phone that don't make you happy because you want something, it's got an advertisement, whether you have to pay money or you have to pay skin, whatever it is, I don't want that. Let me throw that cell phone out or change the subject. Go back to Skype and let's see some happy people. Get off of the YouTube or whatever. But we can make a change when we see that it's dangerous. So let's not go into renunciation because we make trouble when we say that I'm never going to do that again, because then you will.
And it gives much more power if you can actually do it consistently without a
Right.
rule.
The skill is developing sati. The skill is to remember to look.
Yeah, when I look, when I'm playing chess, what I've just done the last few days is to just keep one eye on the Dhamma and one on the chess, and then I can, even though I'm not really gladdening the mind, I could see that, I was being discontent with it, and then over time you just get kind of disgusted with it, and then I start to get the effort again. And I guess that's also one of my questions, like about how the process unfolds. Like sometimes I feel like I'm just like low on motivation, like kind of fall back into like old habits, and then I'm not sure if I do enough. But then I've been thinking, if I just stay in the what, then naturally, my mind will turn into the Dhamma again, and over time it will get better. So I guess then I don't really have to worry.
That's right. That's the whole point about Sangha. Being in an environment that makes it easy to stay in the Dhamma.
Right.
All right. So, Callum, let's get into what you're wanting to talk about.
So there's one sort of problem I noticed that I run up against in my practice. They're mainly beliefs really that hinder me, because I spent quite a bit of time in the, I don't know if you've ever heard of Neo-Advaita or Radical Non-Duality. I don't know if you've ever heard of these teachings, but they're quite disempowering in a sense that they sort of say, well, there's no self, there's no free will, there's nothing you can do, this is already complete, just give up. So I kind of run up against these things in practice. I start feeling okay, and then something says, oh, there's no you to do anything, there's nowhere to get to, and all these kinds of things. And then it becomes quite disheartening as such.
Well, actually, you're taking the wrong attitude about it. The right attitude in the sense of, oh, there's nothing to do and nowhere to go. Oh, what a relief that is. Wow, that makes it really easy. And the issue of no self actually is not a very good translation. And that's one of the problems of Western Buddhism is bad translations about some very good advice. And a better way of talking about it is don't take things personally. It doesn't belong to you. It's not a matter of does self exist or does self not exist. You can tie yourself in knots, philosophical knots, over that question. and it's an irrelevant question. It doesn't matter, because the problem of the question is bad definitions of words. Another example of the same thing is the atheist and the Christians for years fought over, does God exist? And none of them ever bothered to define what the word God meant. And so often they were at odds by saying it doesn't exist, it does exist, and they don't even know what the it is. Okay? And so in that sense, we can say that selfishness is the issue. Like, for instance, what is the meaning of life? The actual question is, what do I want? What is my meaning in life? And when we have, you take the my out of it, then meaning is just all over the place. And the only thing that will define the my in meaning is when somebody personalizes and tries to put it into a box. The reality is that meaning is so vast that there really is no meaning. There's no meaning when there's no selfishness in it.
Yeah, it only exists within the human realm, really, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. That, for instance, the dogs don't have so much meaning. The kind of meaning that you'll find with dogs is, can I eat this or not? Or what is that smell in the air? Or those people are on my land. Those are the kind of meanings that dogs have. They're very, very small, very localized. But humans have all kinds of concepts, all kinds of ideas. And so ultimately, and I'm saying it ultimately, not in the sense of for the beginner, but ultimately, nothing has any meaning except what you put into it. And you often are changing the meaning of things. Like, banks don't mean a thing. Until I want it to have meaning, I got to go to the bank to change this money, or to send this money, or to take it out of that account and put it into that account, because it means something to somebody else. But ultimately, banks don't have any meaning at all. So there is no meaning to anything except that which you want. Desire is what is meaning. Ultimately, if you don't want anything, then there's no meaning to it. And so when we talk about wanting, well, the only thing that you want is when you want selfishly. You can actually have wise want. The wise want would be doing someone a favor, or doing something good, forgiving a debt, that kind of thing. But when I want money, now I got trouble. Because I want. So that gives us the phrase in that nothing is worth clinging to as I, me, or mine. Just like all of the rules, my rules, the rules that I learned in childhood, they're mine. And that's what causes trouble. But when you recognize that the rules don't belong to you, then you can use them wisely. Daniel? But ultimately, those rules don't belong to you because you're a moving target. And every time you move, do you have to pick up that big bag of rules to take with you so that you have some meaning in life, according to the rules. When we start to unravel all of that stuff, we wind up recognizing that meaning is a moving target. There's nothing fixed about meaning.
And you can find that out if it kind of falls apart, and then you might inadvertently lose all your meaning.
Say that again?
And then if that big bag of sort of rules and expectations falls apart somehow through, because everything's impermanent, you see people lose their meaning, and it becomes quite tragic in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can intentionally catch ourselves using a particular rule that makes us feel bad, And then we can do something about it. Like throw that rule out or recognize, oh, it doesn't have that kind of meaning at all. An example of that would be people going on a diet. That's like a renunciation of food, or that's like making a rule. And the real time is eating this particular thing, this particular piece of food. Is this going to be healthy for me or not? Is this going to be a wise bite right here, right now? And if I choose that donut to be unwise right now, I can set it down. And then the next donut will be easier to set down. But making a rule you got to be on a diet, boy, that set people up. I mean, they stand on scales and are frustrated because they're not losing weight, and they go to the refrigerator and they say, oh, I want to eat, but I can't eat. So diets, like all renunciations, is a pitfall of dangers. So let's not make rules about big long-term plans. Let's figure out what's wise to do right now and make a brand new choice right now.
It's so subtle. It's so subtle.
Always right now rather than long term. I mean, that's not so subtle.
Yeah, I've kind of always thought
Yeah.
about how we've ended up so out of touch with the moment, because if you look at animals, they don't need diet plans, they don't need to restrict themselves, they just eat what they want when they need it and get on with it. And I think how have we become so out of touch with that?
Mm-hmm. And when dogs have too much food, they get fat because they eat what they can find. But dogs in nature don't generally get fat. It's only in old ladies' houses where the dogs get fat. So this is the whole quality about those making rules, is that it's actually, the making the rules is actually a way of renunciation rather than staying in this present moment. Oh, if I say that, if I criticize that guy, he's not going to like it. Therefore, if I say it, he's not going to like it, then why should I even bother to think about it? So I could throw those thoughts out about criticizing other people. Because everybody has a big, full bag of rules. And their rules are different than mine, but carrying a bag of rules, that's what we all do. That's what's common. The content of the bag is different, but carrying those bags of rules around is universal. But the fewer rules we have, the easier that bag of rules is to carry around. And so ultimately, the only real rule that we need to carry in our bag of rules is dukkha, dukkha, nirodha. If it causes dukkha, let's not do it. It's very interesting that the Wiccan religion, the old religion of Europe before Christianity came in with a big bag full of rules, their motto was, do what you will, just don't cause harm. Do what you will, but don't cause harm. So we could see that would be actually the rule of the Buddha. Let's do whatever we want to do, so long as it doesn't cause trouble. Actually, even in the sutras where he talks about wrong behavior, in the sense of stealing, killing, harming, taking women, getting drunk, lying, cheating, that kind of stuff. Then when he goes into, well, what is right behavior, he says abstaining from killing, abstaining from harming, abstaining from sexual misconduct, abstaining from telling lies. And then that moves us a vast opportunity for behavior, so long as we're not causing people trouble and ourselves. So take whatever drugs you want to take until you begin to need that drug, and now you're causing trouble. You got an addiction. So let's come out of that addiction. Let's be happy without the rule or without the drug.
Mm.
What about feeling good right now? I should feel good right now, or I should remove that dukkha.
Well, how about I feel good without any shoulds about it? That you
But
would
yeah,
naturally prefer to feel good. And so you feel good. But if you say you should feel good,
but yeah, like changing your thoughts is easy, but changing your emotions takes some time. It can happen really quickly. But I feel like sometimes then there's like a
ah,
disconnect.
exactly. But if you don't change your language, if you don't change your thoughts, then you won't change your feelings. But if you continue to have a new avenue of thought, if you continue to gladden the mind and brighten the mind, pretty soon the feelings will go along with that. The feeling of sukha, the feeling of I'm not afraid. I feel safe and secure. Why? Because I'm not giving myself thoughts that cause me to be afraid. If I have thoughts of comfort, I can begin to feel comfortable. If I have thoughts of well being, then I will eventually have the feeling of well being. And if I have thoughts of being satisfied, I'll begin to feel satisfied. And if I feel like this is a pile of crap, I'll begin to feel like a pile of crap.
So how do you handle the in between? Like, do you just say like, oh, I'm just gonna take it easy, and in a little bit I'll feel good again because I'm being wholesome, or
Right? And then that old rule will come up, get off your ass and go do something. Can you see that old rule come up and say, you ought to go do this, you ought to go do that? And rather than, okay, I can do that happily.
yes, I can do that.
All right. So, Callum, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd like to ask, because you talked about the right attitude in terms of the concept of self is not to cling to I, me, or mine. What's the correct attitude to have in terms of volition, the attitude towards volition? Because it seems evident to me that it's quite a nebulous concept. You can think about it and talk about it for ages, but you can't ever really pin it down. The cause of volition, the source of volition. So what's the right attitude to have?
Right. Actually, the word volition is often associated with will,
Mm.
like free will. All right. And the important point is that the big argument between is there free will and is there no free will is misguided because of the problem with the definition of the terms.
Right.
That basically, what if we can define what destiny is, then we can understand the not free will part. All right. So what is destiny is that our thoughts over and over again lead to our feelings. And our feelings over and over again lead to our speech. And our speech over and over again leads to our actions. And our actions over and over again begin to lead to our habits. And our habits over and over again lead to our destiny. And most people get so stuck in their habits that they can't control their destiny, and therefore they are stuck and they've got no free will. But within the concept of the teaching of the Buddha, when we can begin to change our thoughts, because thoughts are easy enough to change if you remember to change them. I mean, hot dog, you change your thoughts 100 times a day without even thinking about it. So it must be pretty easy to do. So all we have to do is start practicing to have some good, wholesome thoughts. And then we'll have some good, wholesome feelings. And then we'll have some good, wholesome speech and good, wholesome actions, which will lead then to some new habits. And then that means that the destiny is changing. So we start off in childhood with piling up a destiny. What do you want to do when you grow up? What do you want to do? What's your favorite color? What's your favorite food? Have you ever heard those kind of questions? Those lead to your destiny. You're destined to love blue because you said it one time when somebody asked you. You're not supposed to change your destiny from I liked blue one time, but now I like green, especially when money is the right color. But I'm supposed to like blue, or I'm supposed to be a fireman because somebody asked me when I was 4 years old, what do you want to be? And you said fireman. Now you've got a destiny to be a fireman. But when we grow up and get into the Dhamma, we can recognize we can change our thought patterns. And by doing that, ultimately, we can change our destiny. Destinies would be something like he who lives by the sword dies by the sword. And so that young buck who can wield that sword and kill all kinds of people, by the time he's 80 years old, he's been sliced in half a dozen times because the younger bucks got him. Someday he needs to put that sword down and change his destiny. If he keeps that sword, he's going to get killed with one. So we have to put those swords down. And then we don't die by the sword. That's the destiny part, is that you can change your destiny. But ultimately, your will is never free. That in fact, getting your will back and taking it away from destiny takes a lot of right effort. Over and over and over and over again, changing each thought one at a time until you do change your habits of thinking. Right? So that leads to the punchline of the joke that I've been building up, that there is no such thing as free will, but there's certainly a thing called expensive will. Are you willing to pay the price to gain your will back? Because will is expensive. You have to put in the right effort to get it. But you see, the philosophers and the Christians and the atheists, they don't go to that kind of detail. They just argue whether there's free will or not.
I gotta go, guys.
All right.
Thank you very much for this call. I really enjoyed this. Bye-bye.
Okay, Daniel, we'll see you later.
See you later.
So would the
go ahead.
Would the right attitude towards a concept like this be to just mindfully guard your thoughts in this moment rather than become entangled in sort of philosophical conceptualizations?
Mm-hmm. Yes, always the only thing that we have to deal with is right now. Not whether I'm on a diet or not, but am I going to eat this donut or not? Am I going to die by the sword or am I going to put it down? So these are all the rules that we have, is I'm a swordsman, or I'm supposed to be on a diet, or any of that kind of stuff, rather than living our lives in this present moment, looking at what we're doing a full investigation of what's happening right here, right now. This is the method of the Buddha. This is the Eightfold Noble Path. Wake up and look at what you're doing and make a change. And then congratulate yourself. These are 4 out of the 8 parts of the Eightfold Noble Path. Wake up. Look at what's going on. Make a change. And then congratulate yourself. That congratulating yourself is the part of where we come out of our victimhood that we were born into being a champion. Becoming the boss of your own life, rather than being, let us say, ordered around by all of our memories, ordered around by all of our rules, doing what I'm supposed to do rather than making a choice, is this right now a wise thing to do? In other words, it actually becomes very simple. It's not subtle. It's not complicated. It's actually very simple. Are you going to do it right now or not? Up to you. And when we do it this way, waking up, taking a look, making it seen for what it is this dukkha or not, and then making the change, and then realizing that, hey, we have changed. We are getting better. I can clean out my mind. That I can do it is actually that sammasankappa. That's the feeling of, wow, I am in control of my life. Wow, I can do what I know I could do happily.
Is that the whole path, would you
That's
say?
the whole path. And as we tread that path, actually, that's the whole method. It's not a path. That's a bad translation to call it a path. It's not an Eightfold Noble Path, it's a method. A path is like a bicycle path or a horse path or an Appalachian trail. It's not a trail. It's not a highway. It's not a destination. Okay? Like the door to your internal delight is not 1,000 miles from here. That door to delight is right here, right now. And all you have to do is have that method to open that door. You put the key in, you turn the handle, you turn the doorknob, and you push the door open, and you're in paradise right now. But keep practicing, because that door, we sometimes leave the room. We hear a noise and we go outside. Can you come back and open that door again? Come right on in. You've got paradise. Or you can take it from the other direction of the analogy, is that you live outdoors, you live free. But then we hear a noise inside, and then we go in and we shut the door, and now we're locked into our own prison of rules and thoughts and ways things are supposed to be. And all we have to do is open that door and come right back out into paradise, right back out into freedom.
Yeah, I guess a rule that I see that comes up is, well, I shouldn't be allowed to feel good all the time. It's not fair. It's not right. That's kind of how I feel. I feel, well, everyone else is not happy. I shouldn't be happy all the time. It's not possible. I don't deserve it.
But that's a rule. You don't deserve it. So you actually can give yourself permission that you do deserve it. You don't have to go follow anybody else's path or rules or do what you're told in order to feel good. You can choose to feel good right now. You have permission. And also, you have the power to do that. You have the potency. You have the ability to take the right effort to open that door to paradise. And then the third one, these are 3 P's, by the way, that were done by a psychologist back in the 70s. Permission comes first. You don't need mommy's permission. You don't need God's permission. You can feel good right now. You do have the power to do that. You have had the power all along. You just didn't exercise it. But through right noble effort, you have the power. And then the third item is that it's not going to fall on you. This is where the protection comes in. You are protected. It's okay for you to come out of your rules, out of your ordinary existence, and it's not going to fall on you. It's not going to crap on you. A lot of people have the idea, oh, if I feel good, things will go to crap. Oh, I should not feel good. I don't deserve it. And the fact is you do deserve it. You do have the power, and you do have the protection. It's not going to fall on you. It's not going to destroy you because you felt good, because you didn't have permission to do it. And so I give you my permission to feel good.
I think you have to take your full responsibility sort of back from external sources. Because I remember being very much like this as a kid, very independent, very like I thought I was like big
until
master
they
of my...
feed it into you.
And then I've kind of sort of thought, well, no, society can't tell me how to be, my parents. But the one that keeps going, I struggle taking back. I still feel I put some external power out there to like a god, you know, like a universal force that I'm at the behest of. And it's hard for me to sort of reclaim total responsibility from that.
And you do have permission.
Feels like sacrilege.
Right. That's what's not having permission. Oh, you can't do that. There's a rule against it. And they paint a great big label on that tiny little rule. Sacrilegious. Hoping that that great big sign will prevent you from breaking that tiny little rule.
It's like the big rule. It's the biggest rule of them all. It's
just a tiny little rule. It's just got a great big sign on it. There's nothing to it, in fact. It has no meaning, in fact. All it's got is that great big sign saying sacrilegious. But when you define God correctly, then of course there's a God. And when you define it incorrectly, of course there's no such thing. If you define God as a sky daddy, then of course there's not. The only thing up in the sky does not have eyes. They have cameras instead. We have satellites, but in the old days they didn't have satellites. But there's no sky daddy up there looking at you. But if you understand it in the sense of what we would call the Holy Spirit, using the word spirit in the sense of spiritual, in the sense of the air, the apparitions, to expire, for instance, is to breathe out the last time in the sense of dying. Okay, so the word spirit means that we're living in an atmosphere that we can call the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit fills our paradise. So in that regard, of course, we live in God. I live in the lap of God. I'm at one with my environment. And Jesus would say things like that because he understood it in a different context than the Christians nowadays. And so they go around saying that, oh, what I'm saying is sacrilegious because they believe in a sky daddy.
Right.
They call it a heavenly father, but it's just a sky daddy.
So what's to be said for duality and non-duality?
Well, when I see God as a sky daddy or a heavenly father, that separates me. I'm human and he's the big dude. But when we see that I and the things about me are in harmony together, I live in my paradise, that affects me. I can feel the skin. I can feel the breeze. I can breathe in God. Then I'm at one with it. There is no distinction between my body and the environment that I'm in. Also, we were talking about that before, that everybody, the unity, everybody's got a bag of rules that they carry around. But when we start investigating and you see that all Muslims have these rules and the Jews have those rules, then that's where the duality comes in, is because we're looking at the content of the bag rather than looking at the universality of it, is that we all carry that bag of rules. That the only distinction that we ever need to make is this dukkha or is this dukkha nirodha? That I can be one with my reality when there is no dukkha, there's no dissatisfaction. But when I create dissatisfaction in the mind, that means, oh, I want something, and if I get it, I'll be happy. But if I don't get it, then I want it, and I'm in a state of being not complete, not whole, because I don't have my heart's desire. So that wanting stuff creates a duality. But when you don't want anything, then you're whole.
Yeah.
So universality or at one-ment, or the other way of saying it is atonement. When you have atonement, when you're in tune, then you are in the music of the reality, rather than of the noise of duality, the disharmony. Actually, an example of that would be an orchestra. Not before they are actually, when they're coming in to the orchestra pit or out on stage, and various instruments, they warm up. And so one guy will be playing this scale and another one playing that scale and another one will be playing a bit of music, and it just sounds like disharmony all over the place. And then they'll tune. And then everybody is playing the note A, and now they're in harmony, or actually they're at one-ment with each other, getting in tune with each other. And once they get into tune with each other, they can start to play, and when they do, they play music because they're in tune. But when everybody's doing their own thing, wow, how noisy that is. So that's the difference then between duality and unity, is that duality means that everybody's out there playing their own notes, playing their own key, playing their own hammering and sawing and making all kinds of noise, road noise, and skyrocket noise, and airplane noise, and automobile noise, and it's just a lot of noise. A city is a very noisy environment. But you can come into the music theater and find some harmony there, because everybody is in tune with one another. That was originally the point about having a church service, by the way, is everybody comes into harmony and unity with each other, but that doesn't happen anymore. Many times, they'll, especially the evangelicals, they'll go to the church to fight with each other, to have competition over who has the best food or who has the right clothing and all of that kind of stuff. There's your duality.
Yeah, I know.
Doing...
Unfortunately, once upon a time, I was baptized as a Mormon, actually. And I remember I used to go, and I didn't last very long because they used to say things like, "Oh no, we're the only ones with the true priesthood. We're the only ones that can give salvation." And I was thinking, so none
and
of the
everybody says that. Every one of them says that. Oh, ours is the only true religion, and they're often out of tune with the other religions. But if the religion is noble, then they're in tune. They accept it. Oh, yeah, Jews. Yeah, there's Hindus. Yeah, there's this and that and the other thing. And so we can find harmony. We can find the universality. We can find agreements rather than disagreements. When we're finding agreements, we're at one. When we're finding disagreements, then we're in duality. Or actually, there's multiality. So this is what we're practicing. We're practicing actually to come out of the duality of the rules and our adherence or our disrespect for the rules into no rules at all, and we're just at peace, just at harmony with ourselves. So Anapanasati practice is actually the practice of getting into tune, to find atonement, to find harmony. Everything is all right. Everything is fine. And all of that stuff that's out of tune is not my business. All that stuff that's in duality, not mine. Politics, not mine. Nationalism, not mine. Religions against each other, that's not mine. And so we can find harmony or unity, even in a world full of noise.
Because it's always there as such.
Pardon?
It's always already there, even when it appears as like a multiplicity.
Well, let us say it's always available. Think of it like a submarine that is completely surrounded by water, but inside there's no water, but just a tiny little leak, and all of a sudden the whole ship is full of water. So we are, in a way, then, in an ocean of unity, but we try to make ourselves different. And so we try to find a duality there. Let's throw all the water out. So that's an example. That analogy has some an end to it. But that's the whole idea is that there's always, the paradise that you seek is already all around you. It's already a paradise. But Adam and Eve lost their paradise because of their own duality. They had to put up with the results of losing their paradise. They ate of the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. Good and evil is a duality. When you stop having goods and evils and having realities the way they are, now you're back to paradise. So when you have this is good and this is bad, you're creating a duality.
Mm.
And when we let things be just the way that they are, then we become in harmony with just the way things are. And we become back into a state of being in tune, a state of atonement, at one-ment. Funny how that word works. You could either say it atonement or you can say at one-ment.
Yeah, yeah.
Coming.
Wonder if it was intentional.
Mm-hmm. So do you have any other questions?
The only last thing I'd like to ask, since we mentioned about defining God, how would you define Nibbana?
Cool, maybe. Cool. Just chill. You're already in paradise. Just relax. Trying to get into paradise, that makes you hot. Thinking that I'm not there yet, that's hot. But when you say, oh yeah, everything's already okay, then we stop having a fight. We stop having friction. And that's the state of Nibbana, the state of being cool. That's what the word means.
Right.
And when you take food out of the oven, this is the old time of the Buddha's definition. When you take food out of the oven, you can't eat it immediately. Pizza will burn the roof of your mouth if you have it a second after it comes out of the oven. You got to let it cool for a little bit. So that you have to let the food nibbana. You have to let your mind nibbana. Let it cool off. So Nirvana is not a city, or it's not after death or anything like that. It's just when you feel relaxed, when you're cool. Is that a good enough answer for you?
Yeah. I think sometimes I throw up these expectations that it should be this mystical kind of thing.
Well, that's for two reasons. One is it was sold as magic, and number two, it was bought as magic. Western people, they come out of magical traditions of religions here and there, And so when they hear these new Asian words, they put it in a magical context, like Nibbana or like enlightenment. Enlightenment is not magical. Enlightenment is when you can see what's going on and you drop your burden. Two kinds of enlightenment. Light, put a shine, put a light on it, see what's going on. Number two, drop your burden, lighten up. That's all it means. Stop wanting to be enlightenment because you're causing trouble by wanting something. If you just accept things are okay right now, then you're already enlightened. And you're already getting cool. So these are real words that have real definitions, real meanings, and real practicality. But so long as you leave them in the world of magic, they're unattainable.
Yeah.
Well, this has been kind of a fun talk. We haven't really talked much about practice. Well, I've been shoving that in from time to time. So give me another call and we'll continue with practice.
Yeah, I think we said we were going to talk about dependent origination.
Yeah, we were, but we got into rules instead.
Yeah, that's all right. It's been
All
fun.
right, so we'll talk about Paticca Samuppada next time.
Okay, brilliant.
All right, remind me when you call.
Okay.
All right,
Okay.
we'll see you.
Cheers.
Cheers.